I'd also like to welcome Butch Lemkuehler and his family. Where are you guys? And finally, I'd like to welcome Charles Sampson and his family. Now we're having fun. We have a tradition here at the Hall of Fame. Before dinner, if you wish, we'll have a brief prayer. This is the Cowboys Prayer. And this version is by Clark. Oh Lord, I've never lived where churches grow. I love creation better as it stood that day you finished it so long ago, and looked upon your work and called it good. I know I can find you in the light that sifts down through a church's tinted window panes, and yet I feel you near tonight in this dim, quiet starlight on the plains. Just let me live my life as I've begun and give me work that's open to the sky. Make me a partner of the wind and the sun, and I won't ask a life that's soft or high. Lord, make me as big and open as the plains, as honest as the hoss between my knees, clean as the wind that blows between the reins, free as the hawk that circles down the breeze. Lord, just keep an eye on all that's done and said, and right me sometimes when I turn aside. And guide me, Lord, on the long, dim trail ahead that stretches upward towards the great divide. Amen.
Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we serve up this evening, I'd like those of you who are going to need some assistance tonight, I want to identify members of the Hall of Fame board. Board members, would you raise your hands so these folks can see who you are if you're a board member? If you need some assistance serving up here tonight, we want to help you with that, and you'll be here among the first to serve up. And just take a look at these folks who have their hands up in the air, and ask one of them, and they'll take care of you. Okay, or ask me, and we'll take care of you. At this time, I'd like the inductees. And their families to please serve up dinner and begin our evening here. Go ahead. We have a buffet line. Don't be shy. This is a nice crowd tonight. Very nice crowd. And everybody's quieted down nicely when I asked them to. And we've got a nice room here. We're going to have a great induction. So, welcome to the 13th induction of the Ellensburg Rodeo Hall of Fame. And we've got a special induction here for you tonight. My name is Mike Allen, as I told you before. And I'm a local guy. I grew up here. When I'm not doing the Hall of Fame, I teach American history at the University of Washington in Tacoma, Washington. So I'm a commuter. Coming to Ellensburg is kind of my hobby, and I'm glad to be here and glad to be here with you tonight. Before we get started here, we usually take a little time and talk about what the Hall of Fame has been doing and just what we're up to and what our latest projects are. I kind of fill you in because I know many of you are members and life members of the Hall of Fame, and so this is what's new with the Ellensburg Rodeo Hall of Fame. I think the really new story is our oral history project, and this is an idea that Stacy Young dreamed up a couple years ago, and what we wanted to do is start interviewing with cameras and videotape, interviewing old-timers around town and people who know the history of the rodeo and the traditions of the rodeo, and record these people and record their memories so that we can form an archive, and we will have those sources available in the years to come, the decades to come. The Ellensburg Public Library really did something like this in the 1970s with an oral history project. And they got that first generation, people who had actually started the rodeo in the 1920s. And what we're doing now is we're interviewing people who were youngsters during the, mostly the 30s and some 40s, 1930s and 1940s. And Nick Tucker has taken this on at Ellensburg High School. And our first round through, we had an Ellensburg High School student named Mcgregor, who I think some of you know, who did this as a senior project. And we interviewed Bertha and Tuffy Morrison and Buck Miner and Peg Hunt Miner. And so we have an oral history archive that we're building, and that's a neat thing that's going on with the Hall of Fame. Another thing that we're doing, which is 3 years old, is the Arena Records sign. And you've probably seen it if you've gone into the north entrance of the grandstand. There's an Arena Records sign there. And we keep that up to date with the Arena Records for the Ellensburg Rodeo. And we thank Sign Dog, incidentally, for their help on that project. They put up the sign and maintained it, and that's a really neat addition to the rodeo grounds. We have the Western Village exhibit, and if you go in, as you will, to the rodeo from the north exit this year, be sure to come by the Western Village, where we've got an office, and we'll have some displays, and you can come check that out and visit with us at the Hall of Fame headquarters at the Western Village. We continue to scout around and look around for a permanent museum site. And, you know, we're going to have a museum of rodeo history someday, I swear. It's going to happen. We continue to work on it. We work on it with our partners in the Ellensburg Rodeo Board, and we look at locations. We raise money, and I think you can look for a big capital fundraising campaign sometime in the next few weeks. You may have seen an announcement over there. Have you heard of Boots of Fame? Anyone? Boots of Fame? Well, stand by for Boots of Fame. It's a fundraising project in which we already have support in the community, and business people and community supporters who are going to purchase ceramic cowboy boots that are quite large and are objects d'art. You know, that's what we call a ceramic cowboy boot over here, an object d'art. Okay, and we're going to take those things and paint them, and they will be in local businesses, and we're going to make some money that way. And this whole thing began actually with a grant from the state of Washington for heritage, for preservation of local heritage, and the county commissioners gave us a piece of that grant. We used that as seed money, and so watch out for boots of it, or as Bob Kelly saying, boot up. Okay, boot up this fall, and we'll try to raise a little bit of money for the Ellensburg Rodeo Hall of Fame that way. Well, I'd like to introduce our board to you at this time, and hold your applause till the end, but I'd like our board members to stand up. Terry Phillip, Terry, Janie Charlton, Bridget Clift, Rochelle Kramer, Joe Crawford, Mark Foster, Bob Kelly isn't here, Stacy Young, they're out rodeoing, Ken Mcrae, Bertha Morrison, Joel Smith, Nip Tucker, Julie Burden, Jack Wallace, Jeff Whitney. Let's have a round of applause for our board of directors. Just a few words about Terry Phillip. Stuart Anderson did last year, and I want to echo his sentiments and thank Terry for stepping in and taking the helm of the Hall of Fame. Has it been for 4 years or 5 years? Anyway, thanks. You're doing a good job, for sure. We'd like to thank our corporate table sponsors. You saw their names on the big screens as we began here and on your table. Incidentally, if you're sitting at a table, the Fiddler's table, or the Virginia Gakin table, or Yakima Federal Savings and Loan, those 3 tables, when we're all done here, look underneath your chair. If you got a little sticker on it that says Ellensburg Rodeo Hall of Fame, then you get the bouquet of flowers and centerpiece, okay? Now don't do it right now. You know? That's the door prize, okay? Yeah, I know. That's just one component of this gala occasion, I tell you. You gotta wait for the finale. So I'd like to thank our corporate and table sponsors tonight. We'd like to thank our life members whose names are listed in your program. And we have a lot of annual dues-paying members who are here tonight. And we thank you for your support. We always thank Megan and her rodeo office staff. And of course the Ellensburg Rodeo Board and President Dave Standish for their support. And there's been a lot of cooperation between these two boards lately, and we're very grateful for that. We thank Scott and Joe Rep. How many of you were out at the roping yesterday? sponsored the road bank. A lot of them, well, almost all the money gathered at the gate there, except money to meet a few expenses, goes to the Ellensburg Rodeo Hall of Fame. And that's a nice source of income for us, and we really appreciate the support. Scott, incidentally, is the recipient of the driver this year, and the 2009 recipient. We thank them, congratulate him on that distinction. As always, we thank the voice of the Ellensburg Rodeo Hall of Fame, the Ellensburg Daily Record. Mike Johnston is here tonight reporting the story, and Mike is, yeah, absolutely. Mike is a longtime supporter of the Hall of Fame and has worked with us for over a decade and edited a lot of our articles and done a lot of work for us. And all his front page articles, and nice layouts too. The articles have been presented very nicely this year, and they look really good, and we just really appreciate that support. I don't see Jerry Palmer. Jerry Palmer and her catering staff here at CWU do a great job. This is our 13th banquet. We really appreciate it. Photographer for the Ellensburg Rodeo Hall of Fame. Thanks, Molly. The Bledsoe Washington Regional Archive. The Bledsoe Washington Regional Archive. Archivist Emeritus Tim Eckert and his successor Bridget Cliff. And we keep all the artifacts for the Hall of Fame at the Regional Archive. And we've got a neat collection. We have rare film footage. We have the Maynard Linder rodeo program collection. We have jewelry. We've got Tom Ferguson's World Championship buckles, saddles. We've got a Farrell. Joe Powell last year gave us a Farrell saddle. So do you want, would you like to have a Farrell saddle for the Hall of Fame? And so we have a lot of neat stuff. We just need to get a museum to put it into. But in the meantime, these folks over here are keeping it safe and sound at climate-controlled temperature in the Central Washington Archive. So thanks, guys. Now, we welcome our former Hall of Fame inductees, and there are Hall of Fame inductees in the room tonight. And I know there are members of the Ellensburg Rodeo posse here, inductees to the Hall of Fame, and the Wranglerettes, who I'm going to talk about a little bit here, and members of the Kansas County Ropers. These are all inductees. At this time, I'm going to read off the names of these pioneer rodeo families who we have inducted. And if you are a member of these families, after I'm done, well, actually, when I read the name of your family, if you'd stand up, I'd appreciate it. Anderson, Cook. Listen, we're doing the roads in Kittitas County here, okay? These are the road signs in Kittitas County. Anderson, Cook, Driver, Ferguson, are you getting shy, guys? Ferguson, Fitter, Gage, I know we got some Gages here. McEwen, McManamy, Weiner, Morrison, Thomas, and Snebley. These are our descendants of these pioneer rodeo. I think John P. Foster is here tonight. Hi, John. Frank and Charlotte Beard are here tonight. Frank and Charlotte. And Mr. and Mrs. John Westcott are here tonight. I had a feeling you were going to make it here tonight, John. I'd like to introduce the Ellensburg Rodeo Court, Queen Tegan Coward, Mrs. Nina Dunnington, King County Princess Lee Town. And for the first time ever, the Miss Rodeo Washington pageant is held concurrently with the rodeo, and Thursday night is usually a busy night for them. They usually have a fashion show. But this year it was scheduled differently, and so we have Miss Rodeo Washington here tonight. Indeed, we have a Triple Crown rodeo threat here tonight. I'll tell you what, we have Miss Rodeo America, Megan Ridley, here tonight. Rodeo USA, the former queen of the Ellensburg Rodeo, Jamie Church. How cool is that? Well, welcome, ladies, and thank you. This is great. Well, I think we're about ready to get started here. We're only doing, we've cut the number of inductees. I'm sure you've noticed. In previous banquets, sometimes there's been 6, 7, 8 inductees, and what we've done in recent years is reduce that number and focus in on individuals, and also take a little time at the beginning of the induction to look back at some past inductees. And tonight, because this is a special induction, I think, in many ways, and tonight what we want to do is kind of focus on the fact that, really, professional rodeo was the first integrated sport in this country. 30 years before Jackie Robinson integrated the major leagues, there were African American and Hispanic American and Indian and Anglo and Celtic American cowboys of both genders competing in the rodeo arena. And this is in no way saying that rodeo did not at times reflect problems in the society at large, or that there were problems in rodeo, but the fact stands rodeo was the first integrated sport. And that's pretty cool, and I think that's something that a lot of folks don't know. Marvell Rogers competed here in Ellensburg in the 1930s, George Fletcher, and Bert Dykeman, I know who was a mentor of yours, competed here. And there were always women in the rodeo arena, especially before the Second World War here, I think in a larger degree than now. But, women have always been in the rodeo arena at the Ellensburg. And our first image that we have here is Kathryn Mark. And that's a great story in Northwest rodeo history. She's an inductee to the Ellensburg Rodeo Hall of Fame. Born in Reed, Oregon in 1937. Became involved in the Pendleton Roundup. She was the captive girl in the Happy Canyon pageant, night pageant, which some of you have been to. She was the princess princess in the Pendleton Roundup in 1954, and in 55, Pendleton Roundup queen. She married Jerry Anderson and moved here in 1957. And of course, she was an accomplished barrel racer at that time. In 1974, was the PRCA Columbia River Circuit Rookie Barrel Racer of the Year, and won the Circuit Finals Championship in barrel racing in 66, 70, 71, and 73, and became a liaison in incorporating barrel racing into a premier event and a featured event in the Ellensburg Rodeo in the 1960s and 70s. And as John Ludka has written, Kathryn was a stately horsewoman who dominated Northwest barrel racing as it became more and more accepted by rodeo producers. Another inductee to the Hall of Fame is Bernice Blair, who was a trick rider here, grew up here in the Kittitas Valley, born and raised here in the valley, and became a professional trick rider in 1935, went on to a 20-year career in rodeo, worked with the 101 ranch show, performed before the Queen Mother of England, and worked, of course, the Ellensburg Rodeo on a regular basis between 1935 and 1950. She also worked Madison Square Garden, Boston Garden, and San Francisco's Cow Palace. And another trick rider who many of you know, Peg Hunt Minor. Daughter of Floyd and Jean Minor, sister of Buck and BJ. We inducted the minors just a couple of years ago here. That was a great induction. Born in Montana, became a professional trick rider and roper in the late 1940s on her horse Pepper. And Princess of the Ellensburg Rodeo, 1947. And of course, an Ellensburg Rodeo grandma in that famous advertising campaign of the 1990s. We don't have an image of Maude Barnett here tonight, but I'm going to get one for next year or the year after. She was a bronc rider before the Second World War, a rust-off rider who rode buckaroo style. And interesting gal who evidently drove her car way too fast around town, so the story goes. And she also ran Mabel's Cafe on the edge of town as some of us were growing up. So if you remember that early morning hamburger and gravy, okay, that 3 a.m. job, That was Maud Barnett, a former rough stock rider in the Ellensburg Rodeo. If you don't remember that hamburger, that's okay. Remember, that's probably for the best if you don't remember that 3 a.m. hamburger. Okay, let's go to the Ellensburg Rodeo Wranglerettes. Mounted drill team, 32 years ambassadors of the Ellensburg Rodeo. There were blue and white Wranglerettes and the gold Wranglerettes. Do we have any Wranglerettes in the audience tonight? Yeah. A mounted drill team, an excellent drill team. They were a feature act in the Ellensburg Rodeo for over a decade. They were in the main show. And at this time, we've counted, there's over 232 Wranglerette alumni scattered around the world in various places. And they were wonderful representatives of our rodeo. We have an image of Yakima Indian women here, and the Yakima Indian Nation was inducted as one of the first inductions into the Ellensburg Rodeo Hall of Fame. And the women in that induction play an important role in their participation in the parade and in the dancing, and especially the demonstrations of traditional crafts in the Indian village. Finally, we've got Charlene James, inducted the second induction, 1998, and on her horse Scamper. 1987 was the leading money winner in all rodeo, the first woman to wear the number 1 at the National Finals Rodeo as the leading money winner at that time. And from 1984 to 93, won 10 consecutive National Finals Rodeo Barrel Racing Championships. These are some of the women who are inducted into the Ellensburg Rodeo Hall of Fame. Let's have a round of applause. At this time, I'd like to bring to the stage Jack Wallace, who is a member of our board of directors and knows a lot about horses, and is going to tell you something about this Big Bend Flying 5 rodeo company. Jack Wallace.
Thanks, Mike. When I first got here tonight, Dick Tucker looked at my shirt. He said, "That reminds me of the 4th of July." Well, it dawned on me that that's how we're going to start the program tonight. Lou Hudson, who was the grandfather of Don Hudson, 1928 or 29, gathered some livestock and they put on a rodeo at Spokane on the 4th of July. The original Big Bend Rodeo Company was started in 1961 by Bill Hudson, who was Lou's son, and Ed Ring. Somewhere in there, Bud King was a partner in there too, and they had some outstanding bucking horses at that time. In 1971, they sold the Big Bend Rodeo Company to the Joe Kelsey outfit, and Kelsey's are in the Ellensburg Rodeo Hall of Fame. In 1992, the company's evolution came full circle. Don Hutzel, who was Bill's son, partnered with Sonny Riley, and they bought out Ralph McLean bucking horse outfit, and he had bought out Joe Kelsey. You're all following me. After the equation of McLean, they brought back in the name of Big Bend Rodeo Company and included it with the Flying 5, and that's how they got the start of the Big Bend Rodeo Company Flying 5 as we know it today. Sonny Riley and Jeannie, his wife, Don Hutzel and son Chad, they run the operation today. Before 1969, the Hutzels had purchased their broncs and bulls from other contractors and probably anybody else that had something that they couldn't ride. Some of those horses were salty. They had been ridden 107 times without, or no, he hadn't been ridden for 107 straight times. Another one is a horse that they had bought from Oral Zumwalt out of Montana. That was a Great Trails End. And last year, year before, he was inducted to the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame. Another horse that they had was a horse called Tradewinds. And I'll tell you a little extra about him. That horse came out of Yakima. It was the first I knew about him. My dad had a friend down there that he liked bucking horses, and he'd try them all, get them roped, ride, cowboy on them. And my dad had a friend up here named Jerry Hadley. He liked to do the same thing. And they'd trade one bad one for another bad one. And Jerry Hadley ended up with this horse called Tradewinds, and I saw him. He come out to the place where Dad worked lots of times. I never did see that horse ever buck, but he would rear and lunge, and it wasn't very fun looking, to be honest. And but anyway, that horse was a 3-time saddle bronc of the year. He was a registered quarter horse. The Flying Five part of the company is a stock breeding branch. This partnership meant that Big Ben and Flying Five could produce its own stock at Riley's Ranch near Central Ferry in southeastern Washington. And for those of you that live in here in the valley, or if you ever traveled up the Vantage Highway, out where the windmills are at now, you see some horses out there that look like they very well could be wild horses, but those were Big Ben Flying Five horses. At present, Big Ben Flying Fives run about 500 or 600 head of horses and about 300 bulls. And Sonny Riley says that about 80% of them will buck. And they keep about 50% of those, the rest of them they sell. They are some of the best stock breeders in North America. It's always, I look at the rodeo sports news a lot, and I see the results, and even being a timed event guy, I like to see the results of the rough stock events, and it really gives you a good feeling when you see a horse or a bull that comes from Big Bend or Flying Five. The first place people in there, they'll tell their score and what company that they came from. And Don's son Chad, he also is a pickup man. And Sonny says that you can't make them buck, only if they want to. And if they don't like it, they won't do it. It's just like an athlete. If they don't have the heart in it, they're not ever going to make it. But these bucking horses, they the right genetics and athleticism, and they can buck. A dull mom and a dull dad, you get a dull offspring. Wild horses, they won't buck. They're just scared to run off and run into things. So they're breeding these horses and bulls to buck. I'd like to read a quote from Kim Mcrae, former Ellensburg Rodeo director. He says, as arena director, it had been a long dream of mine to get owning the top end of the several stock contractors here at Ellensburg. That dream became reality when we were able to get the great horses and bulls from Big Ben and Flying Five to join Calgary Stampede and the Beard rodeos in the early 1990s. The quality of our rodeo was dramatically improved then and has remained top-notch ever since. The Hudson Riley horses and bulls, many such as Spring Fling, went from here to the national finals and earned numerous awards as the top animals in the U.S. and Canada. They have also helped enormously to help us as one of the premier rodeos, and the top hens all want to come here and get on that stock. Okay, I just dropped my notes here. I try to keep in order. Extreme Bulls. How many of you are going to come to watch Extreme Bulls Saturday night? When the Ellensburg Rodeo Board decided to put this event on, they didn't feel like they were capable of doing it by themselves, so they talked with Donnie and Sonny, and they helped get the bulls, organize it, or help organize it, and they even helped with some of the financing on it. So a great deal, guys, into something that has become so big that it started here at the Ellensburg Rodeo with their help. Listen to these names: Cool Toddy, Miss America, Spring Blues. These are all top saddle broncs of the Big Ben Flying Five. Bulls, Dogface, Unforgiven, Kahana, Rapid Fire, all great bulls. One Yellow Jacket, he just passed on here a couple weeks ago. He was 17 years old. They had sold him to an outfit in Texas, and I think they were using him for breeding, weren't they? And but anyway, he was 17 years old and just died. But those are great animals. Keeping with the Ellensburg tradition, the Hudson riding, they decided they wanted we want a horse to come into the Hall of Fame from them. And they selected one. And I'm not going to give a name here for a little bit. This horse has bucked off or made really high scores on her. She was voted the top bareback horse in the PRC in 1997. The top saddle bronc in 1999. There's not very many horses that go both ways, and she has. She's been ranked in the top 5 in bareback riding for several years. And she's really fun to watch. She'll go out there and kick high and jump, and those guys look like they've got it made. And all of a sudden, she takes that buck rein, or they go over her head, or they take that rigging away from her. If they stay on her, they usually win first or second. How many of you have heard of Dan Martinson? 6 times, he's tied to KCT, I believe. 6 times he's been the champion of the world in saddle bronc riding. This horse bucked him off 5 times. One year here at the short round at Ellensburg, Ty Murray rode her, but he didn't spur, so he didn't get a very high mark. And this year at the national finals, Bobby Moe had her, and he tied the record in the bareback riding. That's at the national finals. And without hesitation, Donnie and Sonny both said that the horse that they wanted to put in the Hall of Fame is the great mare, Spring Flame. And he told me, or I looked it up on the website to see who might have her drawn at the rodeo this year, and I noticed that she wasn't there. And I asked Donnie, I said, what's going on with Spring Flame? He says she's out in the pasture right now, and they may not bring her back. So 14 years old and been an outstanding bucking horse for Big Bend Flying 5 and for us to all witness. Some of the rodeos that they put on, or not that they put on, but they subcontract with, are San Antonio, Texas, Reno, Nevada, Ellensburg, Fort Worth, Cow Palace, San Francisco, OMAC, and of course the national finals. At this time, I'd like to have Donnie Hudson and Sonny Riley please come up and accept their award for this day.
Sampson induction. We're going to ask Joel Smith to get up here. Joel is a 25-year veteran of the Ellensburg Rodeo Board, 13-year veteran of the Hall of Fame Board, and I think most importantly tonight, a friend and admirer, Charles Sampson. Joel Smith.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. Tonight's inductions really reflect more recent history of the Ellensburg Rodeo, and having been involved with these inductees, it's a real honor to be a part of this deal tonight. And especially big honor to induct my friend Charles Sampson. The 2009 inductees all contributed to the success, the popularity, and the traditions of this great community event, and we're very proud of them. And tonight they will all be forever part of the Ellensburg Rodeo history. Charles Sampson's a professional bull rider, and he's one of the best. And he became one of Ellensburg's favorites. And every time the announcer read Charles' name, he was getting ready to get on. The applause was long and loud. Charles will join bull riders Larry Mahan, Kenny Stanton, Jim Shoulders, and Dick Griffiths in the Ellensburg Rodeo Hall of Fame. Charles was Ellensburg Rodeo bull riding champion in '81. I think that was a little after your rookie year. And came back and won in '84. In '82, he was a world champion. He took it all that year. And he made 12, 13, 14 NFR appearances. 10. Well, see, I like to brag you, man. Okay, and after retiring from the circuit finals in 1994, Charles was honored by his peers in the rodeo world with his induction into the end of his riding career, and after retirement, Charles was involved with the standalone bull riding events that were starting to pop up around the country. And he was really genuinely one of the pioneers of that kind of competition. And whether you know it or not, Charles, you were really instrumental in starting the bull riding event here in Ellensburg, because you kept bugging me about doing it. And also with the help of Don Hudson and Sonny Riley, who really participated in launching this successful event that they have here in Ellensburg now. It was good advice and appreciated. And after his bull riding career, Charles made a couple separate trips back to Ellensburg, and they were non-rodeo type trips. Central Western University celebrating their Black History Month, asked Charles to come and do some motivational speaking. He came in here and did a wonderful job, and made a lot of friends in Ellensburg, both inside and outside the arena. And one of those trips, I think, Charles, that you were up here, you went out to Frank and Charlotte's place and did a bull riding clinic for them, which worked out really well. And today, Charles can still be seen at the major BRCA events, visiting the young contestants and encouraging them to success and how to be number one. You can find Charles taking the time to talk to his many fans and friends around the country. As you probably have witnessed here tonight, he's got plenty of fans and friends in this building. And when I think about Charles, I remember the TV ad that he did for Timex watches. Takes a licking and keeps on ticking. Well, that's Charles Sampson. Not only one great cowboy, but one great person. Charles Sampson.
California is at? Yeah, I know you guys know. anybody, anyone else? That's where a guy like myself come from. If you're from Washington, you never heard of Ellensburg, Washington, or Yakima, or places like Hamilton. But if you become a cowboy, you know these places exist because these are historical cowboy. And I started my career as a kid, just wanted to be around horses, and it led to me eventually becoming a cowboy. Well, I joined the PRCA in 1978, right out of college. And in 1979, I was riding pretty hot. I was 8th in the world, got hurt, and missed a lot of rodeos at the end of the season, never qualified for the finals. 1980, I got hurt again, went half of the year. Guess what happened in 1981? I didn't get hurt. When I made it to Ellensburg, guess what else happened? Well, I get to Ellensburg, and I'm all excited because I got number 90. And before Don Hessel and I think Sonny was here, but before those guys, there was a stock contractor named Bobby Christensen. And the Christensen brothers had the stock here. And I had number 90 playmate. And the rodeo was going on. And the way they used to have the bulls, they used to have them way on the other side of behind the grandstand, behind the bucket shoes. And here's all these bulls, behind the bucket shoes. And I'm wandering around, well, here goes all these bulls, where's 90 playmate? Well, they hid him for me. Hey, wait a minute, where's my bull at? He's in the back, laying down. Get him up here. And they got him up there, and I got on him. And that was my first year here to Ellensburg. And what a way to be Christian, to come to Ellensburg to win the bull riding. And I won the bull riding then, so there was no way in the world I was going to miss Ellensburg again, because not only I won the rodeo, I just remember the fond memory of everybody just being so kind to me. Everybody treated me really nice. And Miles Hare and Rob Smith, and they were Bob Rumble back then, they were bullfighters. And I became a friend. Well, Miles was my friend. And I remember this time of the year, I mean, this hectic. We've been rodeoing all year long. You get to Ellensburg, Washington. They didn't have very many hotels here. So when you get here, where do you stay at? You stay behind the bucket chute, or everybody was coming and going. Well, lucky enough, you knew the rodeo clowns, and they either had a camper here or they knew a committee man. Well, lo and behold, Miles Hare, he knew Joel Smith, and we used to stay with Joel and Marie, and Miles used to stay with Joel and Marie. So I would get here and say, Miles, where you stand? Well, I'm standing over some committee people's house. Rodeoing all week long, we need a place to rest and relax. Well, I'll talk to them, and I've been staying with these guys since 1983. So in 84, like I said, our tradition was to be part of the Big Four rodeos. It's a tradition to come here to participate in Ellensburg, Walla Walla, Lewiston, and Pendleton. At their Pendleton, you always got a Big Four rodeo, so that was one of the big honors to come up to the Northwest. Another big key was this run was competing in Ellensburg in the afternoon, jumping off your bull, trying to beat the traffic out to make it to Walla Walla to ride another bull. So one year, well, that in '84. Was rodeo hard. My travel partner was Ted Newts. I mean, that guy was a motivator. Ted Newts is all-time great bull rider to me. He's an Ellensburg champion also in '83. So if I won a rodeo one year, Ted won the rodeo the next year. That was our thing. Charles, you won it this year, I'm going to win it next year. Well, I won it in '81, and he came back and won it in '83. And I came back and won it again in '84, and those were great years for me as far as winning the rodeo. One time I didn't win the rodeo because Sonny bucked me off. Sonny fought. Of course, I could have won this rodeo 2 or 3 times. He didn't buck me off 30 36 or odd. But Don Hudson, he was always nice to me. And that's what makes this rodeo so neat. We're all family. I mean, this is my family here. These are not my kids. They're my family. My niece, my brother, my sister, my nephew, my friend. And this is a funny story because I have so many friends, so many, when I say older friends, and friends like Clyde, he's old. And that was the thing, I'm like, wow, I've been coming here since 81, Clyde, and Edie's been hanging with me ever since then. So congratulations to you, Clyde, for having Edie on your side. So, things like this is what makes rodeo. And to be honored at a rodeo like Ellensburg, I mean, a couple of years, it's going to be 90 years tradition. Next year's going to be Pelton, 100th anniversary. So, these are special rodeos. These are special times for us Cowboys. And I remember telling Myron Warwick one time, he was struggling and he was sore. I said, Myron, I know, buddy. This time of the year, we've been rodeoing since Denver. We've been rodeoing since Odessa. Odessa, Texas starts December the 29th, end January the 6th. Then you go to Denver, and you start soon the finals over with. So we come to Ellensburg, and Myron, he's struggling, he's sore, and I've been through what he's been through. And Myron said, Charles, and what is it going to take to make it to the finals? I said, Myron, you got 60 more days. 60 days. Do good at Ellensburg, do good this month of September, and do good in the month of August, and you made the year. You went 9 months out of the year, and the key is to keep rolling and let Ellensburg be one of your rodeos that and give you incentive. It's a good rodeo. Bear down here and show them why you're supposed to be at the national finals. And he's like, thank you, Charles. I need that encouragement. So I always said, when Ellensburg, if you do good at Ellensburg, then you can go ahead and finish the next 60 days. So this rodeo really feels one of the best rodeos I've ever been to, and it's an honor to be inducted with a lot of the past, inductees. Like Joel said, I was inducted into the '96 Hall of Fame PRCA, the Bull Riding Ring of Honor. Last year, I got inducted into the Hall of Fame in Oklahoma City, and I put those rodeo Hall of Fame, up here pretty high. But to be inducted into, I don't even know how to say this, but I guess I have to say it since I'm up here. This is my favorite rodeo. And it's not because of my friendship of Joel, but that helps. I think it's a big part of Maria and Joel. But more importantly, it's because of my doctor, Hershey. I've been so sore so many times, and I rode a bull here, bucked off the bull, went out the back end, landed on my knee. My knee's killing me. Didn't have time to visit with Dr. Hershey. Dr. Hershey, man, I barely can make it. I said, well, Charles, let me see. You check my knees. Oh, yeah, Charles, you need to see me. I said, Dr. Hershey, I don't have time. I've got to get in the car and go to Walla Walla. Well, we drive back out of head to Walla Walla. I ride my bull that night, come back here. Sonny Riley bucks me off. And Dr. Hershey now, look at my knee. He said, Charles, you need to come see me. I said, when? He said, well, how about Tuesday? I said, I don't have time. I said, well, I need to see you. I said, because your knee is shot. So he took me to his doctor, to his office, did a little arthroscopic surgery on me, gave me a knee brace, kicked me in the butt. I hit the road again. A couple of years later, I was riding in Yakima. Bull bucked me off, stepped on my ankle. Goggy, I don't know if you guys know Goggy Grant, sound man for Ellensburg for many years. I'm Randy Corley, rodeo announcer. I'm laying down in the arena. Just typical, I don't want to say poor cowboy, but just a typical cowboy. Did not want to pay the ambulance bill. So I had Goggy put me in his truck. They drove me to the hospital in Yakima. And the doctor in Yakima was telling me all he needed to do. I said, don't worry about it. Let me make this call. 12 o'clock at night. Hello, Dr. Hershey. Remember me, Charles Sampson? He said, yeah, now what's wrong? They told me my leg is broken 5 different places. What do I need? He said, you need to get down here first thing in the morning. So, my doggy drove me here to Ellensburg. Dr. Hershey put 17 pins and 2 plates in my ankle. So, just this spring, or this winter, I've been ranching in Colorado and riding a lot of horses, and I noticed my ankles were hurt. Well, I got an x-ray, and the doctor said, well, the reason your ankle's hurting because you've been, riding. How long have these screws been in your leg? I said, I don't know, I looked at the x-ray. The x-ray says 1992. So, 92, he said 17 years. He said, yeah, I think you need to get those screws out of your leg. 17 years since I had screws in my leg, and I finally got them out. Those kind of stories that us as cowboys, we get to tell them later in life. We don't get to tell them often because we live those stories, and this is an opportunity to just tell you how much I love you guys. I really love the rodeo people. I love my family, but I have 2 families. I have my family with my mom and dad, my nephews and nieces, and I have my rodeo family. I mean, I have Dr. Dan Hershey, Joel, and Donnie Hudson and his family, and Sonny Riley and his family, and Ed and E and Clyde. I'm still amazed with E and Clyde. That's amazing. And I just want to congratulate Miss Megan. That's Miss Rodeo America. I've been taking pictures with her since she became Miss Rodeo America, and I know just being around the rodeos, she's a goodwill ambassador, and I admire any rodeo queen because as an ambassador, trust me, you have to be on point all the time. And not that I'm trying to fake that I'm happy. I'm always happy because you guys make me happy. You guys enjoy seeing me as much as I enjoy seeing you. So Megan, keep up the good work, man. So, what more can you say? You don't get up here and run for office. So I don't know what to say. Just come from the heart to let you know that I'm really, really pleased. I'm really proud to be in the Ellensburg Hall of Fame with all the tradition of the rodeo that Ellensburg was putting on and shows to the country. And I'm more proud that my family's here because they know me as Chucky. They don't know me as Charlie. Like, Charlie, what do they call you, Charlie? Just like you call me Chucky. I'm your brother, and this is my family. So as family, I got all kind of names. And when I say an old friend, I want to honor my old friend tonight. This is a true story. I started riding horses as a kid in Los Angeles, California. And you ride horses, ponies and stuff like that, you meet a lot of friends. Well, when I was 12, 13 years old, there wasn't very many quote-unquote girls around there that liked me. But my friend Kim Nelson, I have not seen her, this is a true story, until tonight. I met her, but I talked to her a couple years over the telephone by my brother. He lived in Seattle. He said, Charles, guess who I ran into? I said, who? Kim. You mean my first girlfriend? I said, yeah, your first girlfriend. She is my first girlfriend. She hadn't seen her in 30-something years. And Kim, thank you for coming out and sharing this night with me. Because this is, you're a good friend, and these are my friends, and I love you all. Thank you for having me up here.
I'm sure many of us do, to be associated with these special Americans, this special tradition, and to just be a part of it is a real honor. I was talking to a friend this morning that you see at rodeos, because you always seem to see friends at rodeos. I was just the way it is. And he said something to me that I found very profound and very interesting. He said, you know, rodeo is a sport unlike any other sport I've ever witnessed, because only at rodeos do you walk by another rodeo participant or a fictionaire like ourselves, and they always greet you with a smile, and they always say hi. And I've never really thought about that before, but it is so true. Because everywhere you go in rodeo, you have friends. And it's a very, very special thing. And it's very dear to all of us that have participated in it or are a part of it in any way. It's a very special gift. The man that I have the pleasure of knowing for the past 19 years, my goodness, where did the time go? Yeah, is probably, in my humble opinion, probably one of the best crowd entertainers. He's an absolute, he's a funny, funny man. He has a great wit, a great sense of humor. He's probably done as much for the Ellensburg Rodeo and other venues across the country as any person in his particular area of rodeo. And it's a very important area of rodeo because not only is he the person that provides the wit and the humor and picks up those spots in the rodeo where there's nothing going on, something's happening and it's dying and the announcers miss something, but he's also foremost a cowboy protection specialist, because that barrel is, in many cases, the only place that bull rider has to go when he's walked off alongside the bull towards the arena and not towards the chutes. And Butch is not only a funny man and he has a great sense of humor, but as many barrelmen before him, he also fought bulls. And he rode bareback horses, I understand, as well. So, but you walked off. He made the horses look good. Horses got a 25 and Butch got a 5 or 6. In addition to providing the safety of an additional person in the ring, to free the hand that's hung up, to provide that protection that the barrel gives not only the bull riders but also the bull fighters if they're in a bad position. But he is the other person in the rodeo venue that has the live money. And I think Butch set the bar when it comes to that position, because his sense of humor and his ability to sense what's going on, what needs to happen, and the little things that he says save the road. There's a lot going on in the arena, and the man in the middle of the arena, where Butch is, most of the time, has to be on his game. He has to be aware of everything that's going on around him. He's got to sense the mood of the crowd. He's got to see what the announcer's doing. He's got to watch what's going on in the chutes, any other part of the arena. Butch Lindkuhler, in my opinion, set the bar at a height where any other barrelman or rodeo clown, they can reach that bar. They are compliment to their profession. Butch set the bar high. There were some very, very memorable moments that I can remember, and it was a special treat to be kind of in the arena and to be up close and personal with Butch and Charlie and the bull riders and all of the people that are in the arena. But I remember some magical, magical moments in the Ellensburg Rodeo arena that involved 3 parts of our arena, and that was Butch, Phil Gardenhire, bless his soul, and the Ellensburg Rodeo crowd. And there were some, I mean, when those things happened, they just almost carry themselves. But that man, Butch Lindkuhler, done it. And it was special. There are times when he would pick up the slack, and I can always remember we're sitting there waiting for someone to get the bull rope just right. Maybe Myron was taking just a little bit too long in the chutes. And there's Butch. Butch is, are you gonna ride him or eat him? I'm very pleased and very, very honored to introduce to you for induction into the Ellensburg Rodeo Hall of Fame. I'm going to say it. Alan D. Bush, Landfielder, performer extraordinaire.
Sonny said, ditto. There's quite a little pressure here, Charlie. Thank you very much. I want to thank Ellensburg, first of all, for this special honor, the chance to bring my family out here once again and enjoy a family of committee personnel in the community that has come to be revered in my memory. I know, like Charlie, it became a favorite place for me to go because, like he said, the year gets long, the year gets old, and pretty soon you're just looking for a place to settle. And when you came here, you felt like you were at least closer to home. Didn't matter how far you were from your home originally, but you were closer to home. So I really appreciate that. I want to make sure everybody knows that I brought my wife and my daughter here. My daughter Bailey is, first of all, discovering that there actually was a life before her, and at 15, that's a pretty big revelation. And my wife has been trying to convince her. Now she's actually right. Bailey, I've never seen that before. So I appreciate you having us here. I know that there are thousands of stories because one of the things that I've discovered is that over the years, somebody will ask you about a story about here or there, and you really didn't know you had a story. You really didn't know you had an experience there until somebody starts to talk about an experience that I had somewhere down the road, and it stimulates a story or a similar thing. And of course, it's not a one-upsmanship so much as a sharing of experiences and your life history in the rodeo business. And in 19 years, you've got to be. I am not ADD. Is that right? Being ADD, it's a little easier to be quick-witted because you can't keep a thought in your head. You don't get a choice about my business, and if there's a lot of time when somebody's slow in the chute, it's just which one of those things you're thinking of do you say first? Because then somebody laughs and you gotta wait. It's forever. I know that I have to thank, first of all, Ken Mcrae. Where are you, Ken? He was here earlier. Okay, so he went to sleep last night. Ken was one of those people who first signed my check when I came here, and I have to relate a story here. First, I had never been to Ellensburg, Washington, and in fact, the first time I came here, I wasn't hired here either. But I was on the way through here, and Grumpy Frank offered me a place to stay. And he said I could work my trailer out there at his place, and so I was trying to find it. And it was also, like he said, late in the year, so I stopped
stopped in through here and found the barber shop. Now, most of you know I don't really aspire to have too heavy a head of hair, and so it wasn't a real complicated process to me. Find a barber, if he's got scissors, he'll do the job. A good dog groomer is okay. Because by August or September, that's what you need anyway. And so I found this barber, and I'm sitting in the barber shop, and they're talking about the Ellensburg Rodeo coming up not too long. And they're talking about whoever was the clown at the time and how he was really good, and talking about the history of Ellensburg's Rodeo. Now, I am from Nebraska, and so a lot of the history of the Northwest is not real prevalent in the middle of Nebraska. We know a lot about Cheyenne. We know a lot about Oklahoma City. We know a lot about those rodeos in the Midwest. But those people are totally ignorant to the history, the deep, deep history of rodeo in the Northwest. They know about Pendleton, I think, because now they make whiskey. So there's a few of them really know Pendleton. If you think about Pendleton, they know it first thing. Anyway, so I'm in the barber shop, and I'm thinking, I'm listening about the Ellensburg Rodeo and the rich heritage involved in this process, and I think to myself, boy, if I ever get Ellensburg Rodeo, that'd be a lot of pressure. And the first time I got Ellensburg Rodeo, thank you, Ken. I came in here, I was so nervous I could barely get my knees to stop. It was an amazing experience, and when I got the call to come back here again, I just about tore the front door off my house, because it was such an honor, first of all, to be here at all and to come back. It meant that you had met a standard of behavior, a standard of performance that was pretty much second to none as far as I could tell, and the consequence was you always were going to strive to step just a little further, to find another niche, to find another level to perform. And so I have to thank you for bringing me here. Another part of that, and God rest his soul, somewhere, Phil, I hope you're watching, this rodeo committee embraces its personnel. This community embraces its rodeo so fully that when you see this rodeo come to fruition at the end of a year's planning, the culmination of so many people in so many directions and all of their efforts, you know that a lot of people in the right places did a lot of things very well. So I think you people are more to be applauded than we. We do one thing and we'll do it all year. We do what we do all year, but it's by no means as complex nor as integrated within each committee. How many things that you do, and you to be applauded for what you do here. I can't thank you enough for being a part of this community, a part of this induction ceremony. Always dear to my heart. Thank you.
Thank you to our inductees for making this such a memorable occasion. Thank you all for coming. The party is not over. We asked the inductees to stick around a little bit, have some photographs up here. We've got an autograph section of the book, if you would be so kind. The bar will remain open. Let's rodeo. Thank you. We'd like the inductees up here for a photograph right away.